This program is brought to you by thepodcastfactory.com.
Ben Settle, super practical.
I'm not telling people to have a mistress. I'm teaching you, learn the lesson from the people who have a mistress, because there's many business lessons that apply.
Pious.
There's a part in the book of Revelation where Jesus says, I want you either hot or cold. I'm spewing lukewarm churches out. I think it's a good way to look at your list.
Romantic to his very core.
Once in a while, I'll give my girl a present, like a Snickers bar or something.
And totes tender.
If someone asks you to walk on eggshells, smash the eggshells and let the chips fall wherever they may.
Adored by feminists everywhere.
It takes a strong woman to admit when she's wrong.
Not a judgmental bone in his entire body.
I look at all the free information people give just on Facebook and I go, what a bunch of time hoes.
Has a PhD in armchair philosophy.
In the land of dumbasses, the smartass is king.
You'll never meet a more sensitive guy.
If you really care about people, you shame the hell out of them. This is Ben Settle, the bensettle.com podcast. And this, Jonathan, as I mentioned last time, as if you don't, I say this like you don't know this, but obviously you do. This is the 50th anniversary, 50th episode, 50th anniversary, the 50th episode of this new podcast. I think we ended up doing like 137 of the last podcast, but this one we're already up to 50. And, I was thinking, and I didn't think about this in time, but maybe we can do this for like number 75 or 100, where we do one of those live call-in ones like we did that one time. Remember that? That was pretty fun.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we could do that.
I got everything ready for that.
Really? So we'd be up and running this time.
I do.
Okay, good. Well,
like in a minute, bro. I want to do it, but you've actually pushed that idea away. But let's save it for a special occasion.
Yeah, or whenever. We'll figure it out. It's all good. So we're gonna do a Q&A one. Now this is not live Q&A. I solicited these questions a little. I got a ton of them, but I can't answer them all in one episode. But I will over time. And of course, you as a listener, and I'm not talking to you, Jonathan, I'm talking about the actual listeners.
Okay.
In case that wasn't obvious. If you have questions that you want me to answer during Q&As, you can always send them to me at ben@bensettle.com. I probably won't reply because I don't want to talk to you, but it's not personal. I just don't do small talk. But if you send me a question for the podcast, I will put it in the folder that I have all the other questions in. And if it's a better question than the questions I've been getting, then I'll probably use it. And so there you go. All right, so let's dive into this. Let me reach in the old sack here and pull out question number 1. This is from a guy named Benjamin Byrne. That's how you say it, like Byrne. That's Byrne, right? That's how you say it,
yeah,
Jonathan?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I don't know.
I
I suck at pronunciation. I just want to make sure. I don't want to. I'm already going to butcher
it with that.
When you see the last 3 questions, you're going to see them already going to be butchering a bunch of names. I'm just pre-warning anyone listening to this. And it's not personal, all right? It's not malicious. It's just me really having a weird problem with pronunciation. I've had it my whole life. It is what it is. It might make for a little bit more of an amusing podcast. I don't know. Feel free to laugh at me and mock me. I don't care. I deserve it. And so it is. So Benjamin Byrne asks, he says, I got some. Now, I don't think he means he got some, but I think he meant he got some questions. Or maybe he got some. How much do you focus on
he's bragging.
proof? He's bragging to me. I got some, Ben. All right, Benjamin. All right. Fair enough. He goes, how much do you focus on proof in your emails? And how much would you suggest someone without, quote, blockbuster proof elements, as Gary Bencivenga calls them? I know storytelling can be an effective workaround. You don't have to make any claims, really, but is storytelling a substitute for proof? I'm not sure if it is, but I'd like to hear your opinion. Storytelling is part of persuasion. I want to start with storytelling. I don't know if you call it I think it can be if you're demonstrating something, because demonstration is definitely a form of proof. And if your story can do that, that's great. There's nothing wrong with it. The great Paris Lampropoulos, who I think I actually got his name right there, but don't ask me to spell it. He was one of the biggest lessons I learned from that guy. And he's brilliant A-writer, A-list copywriter. I remember him talking about the three, how to make like an airtight case. And he's talking about, you start with a story, then you work into the mechanism, which is like the thing that makes whatever your product does work. And then you go into like the hard data and all that. I talk about this in Copy Slacker too. Or just get I think Brian Kurtz sells these now, the Eugene Schwartz, like where all these people, there was like four CDs where all these A-list people were talking about Gene Schwartz and how much they learned from him and all that. And it's in the third one of those. And he talks about this. So storytelling is important. It's a part of it. With email, though, to answer your question about email, one of the many things I learned from the great Matt Fury, the email king, as far as I'm concerned, is even more important than proof and credibility elements, which are important. I'm not saying you shouldn't have them in an email, but I like to work them in like naturally. I don't like to but in an email, more important than that is the relationship. Like that relationship is really the most important thing. Do they know, like, and trust you? I mean, you can still work the proof in, and you should when you have it. But way more important is the relationship. Are you likable? Now, there's a difference between lovable and likable, Jonathan. I like to think that I'm not lovable, but maybe I'm a little likable. Like that's kind of, it could be the opposite. Maybe I'm not likable, but just a tad lovable. Otherwise, nobody would be buying it. I'm one of the two. I don't know, but nobody would buy it from me otherwise. One of my favorite documentaries, and I just watched this actually with Shane Hunter when he was staying at my house. We watched this. I watch it probably once a month, and I have been for the last 3 years. That's how valuable I think it is. It's a PBS documentary they did about Johnny Carson, and it used to be on Netflix. I don't know. I bought it on Amazon Prime, so I have it just all the time. And one of the producers of the show was talking about how one of the reasons Johnny was by far the most popular late night talk show. None of these guys today even come close to him, and even back then, nobody could come close to him. He is the gold standard even now. 12 years after his death, or 13 years, going on 13 years after his death, he was the gold standard. He was the best at this. And one of the producers was saying that is because he was so likable. 80% of the battle, he said, was just the audience liking. If you have that down, the likability part, then you're 80% there. And I would say the same thing applies with your emails and pretty much all your marketing. Are you likable to these people? You don't have to be. I mean, there's some people who are very not likable who still do well, but I'm just saying for email especially, that's what you should strive for. So hopefully that answers your question, Benjamin. And Jonathan, unless you have anything to add to this, I'm going to move on to the next question.
Let's do it.
Okay. Next question is from someone named Ruth. I don't know what her last name is. I don't know. For some reason, I don't have her last name, or else I would say it to try to give a little bit of props here, for asking questions. Ruth asks, there is one subject that I've never heard you talk about, and I've always wondered. How do you organize your writing day? I struggle with fitting everything in every day with writing, dogs, chickens, husband, gardening, cleaning, cooking, and on it goes. First of all, Jonathan, we have to give her some credit here that she cleans and cooks. This is a good woman.
Excellent.
Ruth, you are an excellent woman. Just for that, I'm going to answer your question in detail because you're not afraid to cook and clean, and I appreciate that. There should be more people like that. Every day I get up with great intentions, and yet most days I go to bed wondering where all the time went. Some days I'm a writing machine, and other days I struggle to even sit down and open my computer. Writers like you and Dean Wesley Smith, who I have no idea who that is, and you, Wanda Black, I have no idea who that is, always amaze me because you always seem to get so much writing done. How do you organize your day? Are you a morning writer or an evening writer, or both? On average, how many hours a day do you write? And what do you do on days when you have writing to do, but you just don't feel like it? I'd love to know the answer, and I'd love it if it really inspired me. Well, once again, kudos to you cooking and cleaning, Ruth. So I am going to answer your question in as much detail as I can. So here's how I do it, all right? And then I'm going to talk about why maybe this won't work for you or most other people, the more I think about it. And that is, I like to pay myself first, not just financially, but in terms of time. So in my way of thinking, the first hour of every day belongs to me. Now, this was back when I was doing client work. Now it all belongs to me, so it doesn't really matter. But back when I was doing writing for other people, I had this mindset that the first hour of every day belongs to me. Now, nowadays, I think the first hour of every day should belong to your mission, whatever that is. As I talk about in my villains book, I talk about having a mission and why that's important and all that. But the first hour of the day belongs to you. So that's when that's how I think everyone should do their writing. Why are you going to give the best, most creative part, the most energetic part of your day when you're at your freshest, while your subconscious is still kind of in that in-between spot of being awake and not awake, where you're going to get your best ideas? Why would you give that to anybody else but yourself? Now, I know there are people who are night owls and they do better then, and I'm going to get into that. But I'm saying in my way of thinking, that's how I do it. So whatever the best part of the day is for you, whether it be the first hour or whatever, I think if you just said, before I feed the chickens and, all that, she talks about dogs, chickens, before you garden, before you clean and cook for your husband, all right? That first hour of every day belongs to you for writing and writing only. And if you're really still having trouble with that, do the Eugene Schwartz thing where you break up in 33-minute increments. So you write for, set a kitchen timer, because we know you have a kitchen timer because you like to clean and cook. So I know you have a kitchen timer, Ruth. And I think you should set it for 33 minutes. When it goes off, you take a 5-minute break. Then you can go feed some chickens or whatever. Come back and do another 33 minutes. And if you did that, if you did just 1 hour a day, not even 7 days, just 5 days a week, you would be far more prolific than probably 95% of other so-called writers out there. And it'll look like you work in all these hours, but really you're just putting the first hour a day. It's just consistency. We'll do it. Now that I say that, I want to talk about something else here. I think this is very important. So email player subscriber, and I've consulted her on this a little bit. It's how much I know a little bit about this now. Stephanie Arroyo was telling me how her thing is personality typing. She could talk to anyone, and with 5, 10, 15 minutes, she will know their Myers-Briggs type. And for people who think Myers-Briggs is bullcrap, it doesn't matter, because she kind of has it figured out where even if you don't believe in it, it doesn't matter. She can still type your personality. Are you a thinker? Are you a feeler? There's all these different things. Do you judge? Whatever. There's all these different things. Within 5 minutes, she can tell you. Now, I can tell you right now, because I've hired her to do some editing for me on my novels, because she does editing too. And I've realized, Jonathan, that I need someone to edit my novels because my buddy Greg Perry, God bless him and his soul, he's my publisher. I couldn't do this without him, but he admitted, he was, Ben, I'm missing too much stuff when I edit. We should just hire a real editor. So, and I, can't argue with it. It's a little embarrassing when we find typos and stuff. I don't care about emails, but like with fiction, you don't want that. So anyway, I hired her to do the editing for book 5, which is, as the time of this recording, has just been published on Amazon. And I told her, okay, so the cover will be done by Kirk Dowpons. I want this done, edited before then. And I didn't know exactly what day that would be, but in my mind, because the way I would do it, I would just do it right away and get it done, because that's my personality type. I'm an INTJ apparently, and that's how I want to just get things done, so I don't have to think about it. I can put my mind toward more important things than working for other people. She is an ENFP apparently, and in her, what they do is they wait till the last minute. They are very chaotic thinkers. They're all over the place. And she did it at the last possible, like when the cover was done, then she spent a day and a half literally and only worked on that. Now, if I tried to force her to do that work by the way I would do it, she would probably have done a substandard job had she done it early, because it doesn't work for her way of thinking. Her personality has to be to do it at the last minute. And that's when she does her best work. Some people work much better under tight deadlines and all that. I don't. Personally, I don't. But I would, if somebody does, just like if somebody works better at night, they should work at night. There's no one size fits all with any of this. So all of this is the too long didn't read it. Ruth, try to figure out your personality type. I mean, you don't have to figure out your type, but just understand what works for you as a person. When do you do your best work? At what time of the day do you do your best? How do you structure your day? It's really based on you and not what I do. So you do dogs, chickens, and, doing stuff with gardening and cleaning and cooking and all that. Sandwiches, those sandwiches ain't going to make themselves. Let's be honest here. So I don't want the writing to get in, I don't think your husband should have to wait for the sandwiches. I really don't. But at the same time, if writing is your mission, then you have to figure out how to work it in your day where it makes sense for you. I told you how I do it the first hour of every day. That may not be the case for you, Ruth. So it just depends. So I don't know if this answers all your questions or not, but that's how I work. I like to work alone. I don't like anyone around me. Like I visited Agora's one of their offices. They have all these offices, but their Baltimore office back in 2014, they flew me in to like teach their editors and the writers some stuff. And their copywriters all work in like a bullpen. Like they're all like sitting right next to each other writing. I could never do that. Like that would drive me nuts. I couldn't do that. But those writers probably like it because they get that feedback from each other and all that. So it really just depends on you. So Jonathan, anything you want to add before I move to the next question? Anything at all?
Yeah, all I can think of is when I like to write, I like to write alone, like George Thorogood. That's what I'm thinking of right now.
You like to drink alone and write alone. Absolutely. All right. So the next question, I told you I don't even know if I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name.
Yeah, here it comes.
How would you pronounce his name? You have it in front of you. Is it Soufiane or Soufiane or?
I was going to say souffle, but then I realized that I'm just hungry, so I don't think that's it.
Well, I'm just going to spell it out. Soufiane. So, and this is, by the way, this is nothing personal. This is our hang up that we're now putting on him. It's not his fault. So he asks, why don't you use automated emails or any of the modern, new, and intelligent marketing automation and AI stuff in your business? e.g.,
Whoa, AI.
AI, emails that trigger automatically when someone visits a certain page on your website or a cart abandonment email, etc. Well, here's why I don't use them. I mentioned in the last episode, I think I mentioned my buddy Troy Browser. Now, he's an Infusionsoft guy. Now, him and I both taught at, well, mostly he taught at Wine Villain. Because they already knew my horse shit. I wanted them to hear the people that were there. And he was the first one to say, I don't even do half this stuff because I don't need to. Because his business isn't at that size and complexity where he needs to have all that stuff done. Now, he has clients that do multiple millions of dollars a year, and they have all these, their businesses are set up in a much more complicated way, and they do need to do that stuff. So I don't do it because I don't need to. My whole business runs on Aweber, one shopping cart, and a sales page, basically. That's basically my business. I don't need them to go to a different page if they triggered by this or that or the other. I don't need to do it. I mock it a little. I only mock it to people who don't need it. People who do all this complicated stuff and they don't even have an offer yet. There comes a time when you might need ClickFunnels or something like that. But for the average person, just who doesn't have that complicated of a business and all that, and I'm not picking on any specific company. They all are good. They all have their, they all do something for someone. I just don't need it. At my size, I don't need it. I'm a basic old school direct response guy. I have opt-in. They buy product number one, which happens to be email players, and then I sell those people something else. I think any business would do well that. Have them opt in, sell them one product. When they buy that, they're segmented off that list and onto a buyer's list where you sell them something else. Or several something else's, whether it be coaching, other products, it doesn't matter. That is the most basic direct response marketing model I know of. It's very simple. But again, if you have a business where a 0.0005% boost in response can mean an extra $1 million this year, then you should use that stuff. Absolutely. If it's going to help give you an edge, do it. But if you don't need it and you don't really have a purpose for it, and I know a lot of people who have all this stuff, but they never use it, but they pay for it, and they brag about how they have I use this program or that one, and they don't do anything that needs it. They could use Aweber and they'd be fine. To me, it's just a waste of money and time and complexity, and why do it? So that's why I don't do it. Jonathan, anything you want to add before I move on to the next question?
Let's keep it moving, baby.
Okay, so this next guy's name is Umar Bahadur. I think that's how you'd say it, right? Bahadur?
It sounds good.
Okay, well, he won't mind if I butcher his name, and I'll tell you why. His question goes, I'd love to know if you have a very specific advice on how to build trust and authority with a United States audience of web designers when you live in a country they have never heard of, look like an Indian, have a bad accent, have a Muslim name, and you're an absolute introvert.
Wow.
I thought this was an excellent question. I really do. And here's the question. I want you to kind of think about some of the Wing Chun concepts I've talked about in this podcast and elsewhere. Umar, assuming that's how I should say your name, Umar. Don't try to fight these things. You can't hide the fact that these things, this is a reality, okay? You have a crappy accent and a Muslim name and all this stuff, and you're introverted and all that. You're looking at these as bad things, like they're going to hurt your sales. When the reality is that's when you want to make the skeleton dance. You got to turn these into reasons to hire you. Now, I don't know what those reasons would be, but I guarantee you can have all these things can be spun to your advantage. So that means you got to own it. Don't try to hide the fact that you have an accent. Say that in your stuff. Say, look, I have a crappy accent. Chances are you and I are going to be working via email or something. I'm not going to talk to you because I have a crappy accent and I don't like talking to people because I'm an introvert. But here's why you should still hire me. And then you go into the reasons they should hire you. So you give the bad stuff up front. You don't try to hide it. You literally say, I have a Muslim name. Okay. If you think I'm going to blow up your computer or something as a result, then you shouldn't hire me. Okay. It's my name. But here's why you should hire me, So do the Ernest Shackleton thing, the old Ernest Shackleton ad where he's like, dangerous journey, probably going to die, safe return doubtful, honor and recognition in case of success. There's 5 negative things, then he comes out with the positive. And that one positive thing is believed because he was so honest about the negative stuff. And so it is in your business or anyone listening to this. If you think you have these things working against you, use them to your advantage. Go out there and admit them and then actually turn them into reasons to buy from you. Being an introvert could work to your advantage. Who wants to hire an extroverted web designer? I want you working. I don't want you talking to people.
Yeah.
So that means I'm always working. That you're going to have my complete, I don't go around. I don't even go out. I never leave the house. I'm an introvert. That's only going to help me do a better job on your stuff. While most extroverted web designers are out there trying to schmooze and talk to everyone and they're always trying to network and all that, I'm actually working on stuff.
Gallivanting
Out there. So And if you look like an Indian, that could actually work to your advantage. I mean, a lot of doctors look like Indians, right? Like
must be smart.
it doesn't hurt them. Like it's almost like better, like Americans especially. Like you're talking about a U.S. audience. Like anything that's not American is like exotic to us. Like that's the George Costanza, Donna Chang syndrome. Remember that episode of Seinfeld when George's parents were getting a divorce and Jerry was dating a girl named Donna Chang, who's actually a white chick, but she has like a Chinese last name. And George's mom thinks she's Chinese and is talking to her on the phone, and she talks her out of the divorce because she thinks she's Chinese, giving some wise advice. Then she finds out Donna Chang is actually not Chinese, and the divorce is back on. Well, there's a lot of truth to that. Good comedy is always rooted in truth. And that is how a lot of Americans think. So, Umar, I don't think these are problems. I think these are all things you can use to your advantage, and I think you should, and hopefully you will. So moving on to the next one, the last question, then we're going to end this Q&A. This is from Ben Afsaho. How would you spell his name, Jonathan? I don't want to butcher his name here. He's got a cool first name. How would you say his last name?
I think you're just trying to get me in trouble. That's what you want to drag me down with you.
I do want to drag. Absolutely. Ride or die with me. Opsol. Okay. Now this, I like this question because this is one of those guys I think just doesn't like my personality or something. So he has to kind of make up reasons.
Yay.
So I like this though. See, I like the honesty in that sense. Ben, after 2 episodes of your podcast and 15 emails or so, I was seriously hooked. After 5 though, I started hearing a lot of repetition, a lot of I don't care who cares, which, I only care what you and I think, Jonathan. So he's got a point. I probably do say that a lot. Okay, I get it. So now he's already getting frustrated with me. You only care about your audience, and that makes it strong. Actually, I don't. See, I care about you, Jonathan. I say this many times.
Thank you.
I don't.
And Cupcake.
I couldn't care. Like I really I can't control who listens to this show. So I do this to amuse us. I cannot control who listens to this. So he goes, now what? It's got very boring very quickly. Your emails are great, though I find myself treating them like Mad Magazine rather than the Wall Street Journal or New York Times like I used to. It's amazing, man. Anybody would actually treat my emails like the Wall Street Journal, New York Times. Because I have popcorn emails, like popcorn movies. They're not supposed to be. God, I hope nobody compares me to the New York Times. Holy crap. They're just fun. So that's my question. I know you can get people to fall in love with you. Well, I don't know, Jonathan. I didn't. That's kind of a nice props. But what do you do to keep people from falling out of love with you? Well,
what?
Treat
them badly.
I have a string of ex-girlfriends that could probably attest to how do you keep things interesting for yourself and for others? On a subscription model, that seems important, which obviously I saw a subscription model. Is this a consideration for you, or do you just let it ride and hope folks keep buying tickets? So in other words, he's assuming that I have a lot of people drop out. That's what I'm getting from this. That he's assuming that I have people just come in and then drop out right away. Like probably a lot of people do.
Ben, let me ask you, what is your stick rate for your newsletter? Because a lot of people have asked me lately.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I'm not sure how you calculate that exactly using one shopping cart, but the numbers that I'm using, and Jim Yagi and people who are much smarter than me at this have told me this is the way to do it, is you divide the number of people who are subscribed now by the number of people who have subscribed overall since starting. And so when I do that, it always comes out to I don't know, it's over 50%. That's all I know. So I don't know if that's the way to do it or not. It seems like that might be lacking, that formula. But so more people stick around than leave. Let's just put it that way. And the people who leave should never have gotten in the first place. They didn't read the sales letter. They don't know what they're doing. It's nothing personal. They were not ready for it for whatever reason. But very few people get out because it's like one guy left because in one of my issues, I recommended using easyarticles.com for something. He's like, easy, this is 2016. Are you kidding me? Like he read one thing and then he ignored all the other advice that actually worked with easyarticles.com. See, that's someone who's a small thinker. I don't really want small thinking people. When they come in, they tend to leave because they don't understand it. Like they're looking for the bright, shiny object and it's just not there. I don't have bright, shiny objects. I just don't. What I do is very dull, unpolished stuff, raw fundamentals, things that some would find repetitive. I mean, so Ben's not wrong about what he's saying here. He's really not wrong about a lot of this stuff. I do repeat stuff a lot. But what I do is I go deep into those things. So I don't just say, do this, and then say it again, do this. I say, do this, and now here's how to do it. And I go deep and not wide. And so Ben's not getting that. Like for some reason, he's looking for the New York Times and Wall Street Journal But those are mainstream things. I don't do mainstream. I would be much more likely to do a Mad Magazine type product or email than Wall Street Journal, stick up their ass type media. That's not my thing. But here's, and then he ends his question with, this can apply to both dating and marketing, assuming you use a process/system with dating like you do with email marketing. I don't have a system with dating. I don't know what he's talking about with that, but
come on.
I'm seeing something here, Jonathan, and what I'm seeing is some inconsistency, which I don't like inconsistency. I really don't. It like mentally bothers me. It tickles my brain, and it's like annoys me. He's bored after 2 episodes, yet he keeps listening. He's, bored with the emails, but he keeps reading. This is like those people who leave 1-star reviews for a book that they supposedly read a 500-page book and were able to intelligently give it a review when they should have just been honest and saying, this thing sucked. I never made it to page 10, and so I have to give it at least 2 stars because I didn't read the whole thing. But they don't do that. They just give it 1 star or whatever. So I don't know. I don't know what to tell him other than I do what I do and it works. And if he doesn't see it and he sees it as just repetition, well, I like to think I'm at least in good company. I talked about Earl Nightingale a lot. I've been listening to all of his stuff. Do you know how many times he repeats the same concept over several different teachings? Because they're important. You have to learn those things. Repetition's good. Paul Hartunian, the publicity guy, he's one of the best in the world at that. I can tell you his program is the same way. He repeats a lot of stuff and it seeps into your brain. All the great orators of history, look at Winston Churchill's speeches or Martin Luther King. There's a lot of repetition of words and stuff so they get through to you. Not everything has to be a brand new, bright, shiny object you pull out of your pants every day. It's just got to be the same. You do the fundamentals, teach the fundamentals, and then go deep into those fundamentals. If you're always trying to create something new and exciting, you're going to look just like these clickbait news articles, which don't lead you to anything but nonsense. But the article titles get you in. And that just leads to people being very unsatisfied. So, Ben, I would say this. Your time is very valuable. I think all of our time is valuable. It's a finite resource. If you don't like the podcast and if you don't like the emails, I suggest not listening and not reading them. If you get if they're just repetitious to you and you're bored of it, why are you wasting your time? I don't know. And I would pose this question to anybody. Why waste it? Is your time that unvaluable to you that you're going to sit there and after 2 episodes you were hooked and then 5 you got boring and now you're still listening? I don't understand that. To me, it's just stop listening and say, Ben, this isn't for me. Go give me a 1-star review on iTunes if you want. I don't care. I think we only have 3 reviews up there. I'm not chasing reviews anymore.
Oh yeah.
I'll just use them. Give me a 1-star review and I'll just use it as an excuse to write an email and sell something. So that's fine. But anyway, so that's it for this time. This was a very long episode, Jonathan. I hope that didn't bore you too much. It wasn't too repetitious. But if it was, I hope you got some value out of it anyway. Next week, I am not really sure what we'll talk about, but I'm sure there'll be some repetition. I'm sure it'll be, it'll be raw fundamentals again. And so it is. So that's it for this time. I will see you all next week.
So 2 quick things. Number 1, I would compare you more to National Lampoons. And the other thing is, it reminds me of a book I read my kid almost every day. Go now, Mooney. Ben, you got to go. All right, that's a wrap for another one.
You've been listening to the bensettle.com podcast. To download yourself a free issue of Ben's prestigious $97 per month email players newsletter, which is going to show you 24 ways to write emails people eagerly read, click, and buy from, head on over to www.bensettle.com. Off you go. You know it makes sense.
This is the podcastfactory.com.